Hi, I'm Mark Cotty from the National Disability Coordination Office. My primary role is to help people with a disability access and transition into further education and employment. This video is a short overview of the transitional journey for students with disabilities and the career pathway options available for them. Please note that this presentation is built around a one-page summary of the essential considerations when discussing pathway options for students with disability. This career blueprint matrix was developed primarily for career advisors and teachers and is available separate to this video. I recommend a hard copy version of this matrix be available as a guide when embarking on this journey with the selected individual if you are a teacher or a career advisor. So let's get started. And where do you start? Well, that's with goal setting and starting the conversation with the young person. One of the very first questions is, does the individual want a job? Motivation is a key outcome to success. Now, if you're not getting engagement at this initial question, you may need to discuss the context of what a job means so that you establish a consistent understanding right from the outset. A lot of this will depend on the life history and environment of the individual. Instead of the word job, you may wish to use the words like tasks, chores, or passions and link it to words like purpose, achievement, or career. The term job has many different connotations, and it might be a case of just differentiating the concept of what is a casual job as opposed to a part-time job, as opposed to a full-time job, as opposed to a career, and how, at the entry-level point of employment, you may have to go through a step process of each of these realities to reach your intended outcome. I always like to reflect back on my own experience during this aspect of the conversation, knowing that what I thought I was going to be when I grew up was not how things panned out. Another consideration for the conversation itself is when and where to have the conversation. I always seem to get better engagement with my kids when we're out in the car travelling. Your approach to the when and where is going to depend on how well you know the individual. It is best to have an understanding of the young person's abilities and limitations prior to moving into the area of where to go and how to get there. This means having an understanding of what the individual is capable of or not capable of, which in itself may be subjective, and having clear examples or knowledge of previous experiences will help in narrowing judgment in this area. This sets the scene for the rest of the conversation, so you will know when goals are realistic or not. The next area of conversation is around where are services and resources already being engaged. No matter which school system the individual has been part of, there are a number of common areas of action that take place in those systems. As such, a lot of work may already have been done for you. In particular, there are the career action plans, or in some cases linked to and or referred to as managed individual pathways plans. If you're not familiar with these terms, either contact the school and seek to find out about them, or access the relevant school system websites and search for the terms or subjects under students with disabilities. Even if you know about the career action plans or managed individualised pathways plans, these websites contain a whole range of additional information that you may find particularly useful. An example would be the Strengthened Pathways Planning Program on the state government site, which contains an Are You Ready assessment tool to help you with the skills audit where needed. This is about finding out what is already being put in place through the school system. In some cases, this may not be a lot. In other cases, it may prove extremely valuable. So you know the strengths and weaknesses, you know where they currently stand, and you've established that the individual person has motivation in attaining a job. But do we know what type of job? For some individuals, they will have a very clear idea, from industry type right down to the actual job titles, and maybe even which company. If you are in the latter camp, you're ready to move to the options of how, but for most people there will be some work required to clarify the what. Now, you don't have to be an expert, you don't have to do this on your own. There are a whole suite of resources out there to help. I've listed some of my favourites here which you can just Google and access. Once landed at the various sites, you'll soon realise which one is going to serve you best, depending on the actual depth of research required. Remember, this is about turning an interest or passion into a realistic job, whether that be in the short term or the long term. So I think I want a job. I even have an idea of what type of job, but how do I get the job? I've split this into two parts really. There is the stuff I can do at school, or am currently doing, versus the what comes after school. Sometimes this will actually be a blurred line as you consider whether the young person will be better suited to leaving school early or not, or how clear is my vision of what I want to do. What is important here is to understand that you can actually do some of these things concurrently. For example, I can do a school-based apprenticeship, I can be volunteering whilst at school, or doing a part job outside of school hours. This is a great time to test assumptions and check limitations, but also raise aspirations to what life will be like after school finishes. Before going further, this is a good place to mention challenges and support services. At a federal, state and local level, there are a range of support services out there that you should make yourselves familiar with, and when considering the whole picture. It's quite possible you are already engaged with some of them, so before you make a firm decision such as would the young person be better in school or out of school, know what the challenges are going to be and what sort of assistance from a funding and resource point of view is going to be out there for you. Please don't guess based on a conversation you had with a neighbour over the back fence. Make the effort to ask. Most services are willing to engage with you on what they offer, how to apply, or what may be a better alternative. The journey from school to work life is normally not clear and straightforward. Sometimes it is best to concentrate on those options which have gradual transition steps built into them. In a lot of circumstances, you may have a particular job in mind, but the opportunity, due to a whole range of external factors, may not be immediate. By taking our time with relevant skill building activities, you can avoid what I would call self-esteem scarring from becoming a reality. One of the main pathway options to consider when leaving school is the category of further education. In this category we have three main areas of consideration, of which one of the most relevant is TAFE. I say this due to the range of qualification levels usually on offer at these institutions. They will range from the certificate level 1, which are your foundation level courses, and very important for that slow-paced transition mentioned already, but they also go right up to the diploma and advanced diploma levels. More importantly, however, is the extra assistance that you can be found by the fact that you have a disability liaison officer supporting the range of additional learner support services. Note that there is a range of private providers that will provide similar or same qualification streams, but don't always come with these additional supports. One exception to this is the second category of further education, and that is your local learn community type colleges. In some instances or circumstances, these local learn colleges are going to be very suitable options depending on what's on offer in your area, because they are often targeted specifically with students with disabilities. I highly recommend a visit to the Victorian Schools Gateway when considering any further education options. The last category to mention here is the university option. They will also have a specifically resourced supports for students with disabilities and have a range of extra funding supports. As such, and as with the TAFE system, before enrolling in any course, access these support people and ask for a time where you can come and talk about the young person's circumstances and what adjustments and supports will or may not be available. The next option to mention is the apprenticeship system, now referred to as the Australian Apprenticeship Support Network. I like to think of apprenticeships as paid learning, and you can include traineeships in this section. There are two main features to note about apprenticeships. 1. You can do it part-time whilst attending school, and 2. There is a wide range of extra supports available to help the individual maintain and complete the apprenticeship, not just in terms of support personnel, but also financial support such as living away from home allowances and a disability wage support. For more detailed information on the details of these allowances and also on how best to find access to an apprenticeship or traineeship, please visit the Australian Apprenticeship website or the Australian Apprenticeship Pathways website. Or you can find a local apprenticeship centre, make an appointment to talk with them about your options and considerations. If you have the option of an unstructured employment or entering into an apprenticeship or traineeship, I would very much go the apprenticeship model if available. Having gone through the above options, it may actually be the case that the young person really wants to head straight into the direct employment, and there are three main categories to be considered here when it comes to support services. The first one is the Disability Employment Service, or DES providers, and the second one is the job network system known as Job Active. Both are normally accessed via first making contact with the Department of Health and Human Services, also known as Centrelink. They will take all your circumstances into account, and in particular how disability fits into the individual's capacity for employment. If you find that the disability will impact on your ability to find open employment, they will normally refer you to a DES provider. If there are no issues, they may refer you to a Job Active provider. This is in general terms. The idea of both of these systems is for the agency to help you with your work readiness, but also in helping generate genuine opportunities for employment. How they do this will depend on the individual agency, and it pays to do some research at a local level. Read the recommendation and opinion from others that have already accessed the particular provider. The third option in this section are known as the Australian Disability Enterprises. In the old days, they were referred to as sheltered workshops. These days, they are best known as supported work environments and sometimes referred to as social enterprises. Most major town centres will have one or two of these type industries and are commonly linked to disability service organisations in your local community. So I'll mention disability service organisations, and that is our next category for discussion. If we go back to the initial question of, do I want a job? The reality is that for some individuals, work life is still a distant goal, as we consider that there may be a range of independent living skills that need to be addressed first. This is where day services come in. I've listed here two very relevant places to access information about day services. The first is the Department of Health and Human Services Victoria, and the other, the National Disability Services, which is a national industry peak body that day service providers are members of. Both sites cover this area in great detail. One of the things to note, however, is the impending rollout of the NDIS and how this fits in, or how this will impact on the range of services being offered in this sector. Last but not least is the volunteering aspect of the transitional pathway journey, and again, this is one of those options that can be done while still at school. And it doesn't have to be formal. It could be as simple as going down to the local footy ground, putting up your hand to see what you may be able to help with. Ideally, the area of volunteering should be in an area of interest for the individual, and you would also want to ensure that they will be adequately supported. Note that most major town centres will also have a formal volunteering centre, and it's a matter of making some local inquiries to find out who they are. This may be one of the most practical and beneficial pathway options available in raising aspirations, which is critical for the transition period. In conclusion, I just want to make the final point. The job market is ever changing, as is in the way people are accessing work. But the fundamentals of it's not what you know, it's who you know haven't really changed, or is likely to change. As someone that has been in the recruiting chair, there are three things I am looking for. Does the individual know what the job is? Can they do the job? And most importantly of all, do they want the job? The closer you get to ticking all three boxes, the more likely you're going to be at securing the opportunity. Thank you for your time. Please don't hesitate to contact me directly for any further advice or resource support.